damage out of this thunderstorm here. It's been within the last hour. It is not as intense as it was at that point, but that does not mean that it will not or could not produce a tornado very soon. The time frame between looks like it and does is very negligible on these today, which is why we're prepping ahead. The newest tornado warning issued within the last few minutes here is an extension of this one until 2:15 for Prentiss County. It is this one that does include Alcorn County until 2:45 p.m. And for whatever reason, my arrow is wanting to really concentrate on Prentiss County, partially because that's where the storm is right now. It's on a trajectory, on a path. It takes it toward Kossuth and Gift. What it doesn't have is Corinth in it. Now, if you live on the west side of Corinth there, in this tornado warning, I would love to have you in a tornado safe place. We're in the musta category on getting into the safe place if you live in Kossuth, the Gift community there, and certainly around Jumpertown right now. Looking at the wind mode on Storm Track Doppler radar, the rotation more broad than it was earlier when it produced a tornado, but it's still substantial and strong near Highway 8240 there in northern Prentiss County. So time frame here, Biggersville within 20 minutes. I think this is a little slow. I'd slice off 5 just to be safe. 27 minutes Kossuth, the Gift community in about 38 minutes, 45 minutes into Winnesoga, and the Guys community in 53 minutes. This is a rotation that could produce a tornado and a storm that in the past has produced a tornado. That's why we're concentrating a little more on that than we are some of the other thunderstorms that we have out there right now. The rotation near Dumas has been one that we have watched closely as well. This is the one that previously produced the funnel clouds, possible tornado close to the Tupelo area, though luckily we have not had reports of confirmed damage. We might have just been very close and not actually done it. Fingers crossed, that's the way that ended up working out. We're near County Road 602, moving north and eastward. We're north of Dumas now, Faulkner. We're at 33 minutes, so you're not officially in the tornado warning. If the Weather Service in Memphis deems it necessary, this would be extended to include you. That decision will be made within the next 5 to 10 minutes. And so something we expect to know more about, obviously, very, very soon. In either case here, we're defining this as wind in the thunderstorm that is rotating. Tropical storms, I know tropical storm means something else, but tropical thunderstorms, rain band thunderstorms that produce very little lightning but enough rotation that from time to time they can try to produce a tornado. And at this moment we can cross these two off the list. Previously it was the case where we had at least tornado damage reported and debris confirmed on Doppler radar. Now neither of those things are the case. We'll revisit that debris mode just to make sure here in a moment, but what we definitely still detect is rotation that could develop into a tornado very soon, and that is why we are continuing live coverage on WTVA, ABC WTVA, and WLOV, as well as Me TV, This TV at this time. So tornado safety rules, where do we want you? Where do we need to keep you? Sturdy structure, lowest floor, middle of that structure. Turn up the volume on your TV so we can give you the all clear. Blankets, pillows, always good to have. A helmet on, just to protect your head. It's the one part of your body, as we always visit the schools, we say it's the most difficult to replace and repair is your head. So definitely want to wear that. No shame in wearing a helmet in this sort of scenario here. I do want to check the debris mode just to make sure we don't have any of that on our thunderstorms here. Looking at the debris mode on the storm that we have that's moving through northern Prentiss County, no debris at this moment. A good sign there. We'd be looking for this blue and black stuff where there's rainfall, and that is not what we have at this time, fortunately. Because you see right there, there's where the big red area is. Where do I not have that blue and black and everything else? I don't have it right there. So no debris. That means everything's the same. It's all raindrops. It's not raindrops and other stuff that's mixed in. By the way, moments ago, go ahead. Okay. So here's what we'll do. Let me get our Facebook Live here. We'll try to get this just for some house cleaning behind the scenes here. Moved over here. No, I think we're good. I'm going to plug this back in. You can watch us on Facebook Live. Wants me to rotate my phone, but we're not going to be able to rotate the phone because the TV screen doesn't go rotated. So I apologize for folks. Hopefully it will. Can't turn your phone while live. Oh, Facebook, give me another reason to dislike you. Okay, hold on a moment here. Apologize, because I know that if your signal goes out, this is obviously important to you, so I'm going to take the time to make sure these folks get what they need here as well, because I would hope and I would imagine that in this same scenario that you would rotate my phone. I know that you would probably appreciate it as well, so we'll try to, hopefully that works and doesn't get moved over too much. Okay, new tornado warning issued within the last few moments here for Tippah County. It's the extension of the one we talked about that was in southern Tippah County. This rotation near Dumas, this continues to move toward Faulkner and eventually up toward the Walnut area. Rotation could be a tornado, possibly. No guarantees it is. Certainly a situation, though, that we'll continue to monitor. By the way, here's Mike A. We had this when we needed to, thought we might have to hand it to Joel. Let's go ahead and get it on charger or get it someplace, just because who knows the next time we'll need another battery. Okay, and let's look at this all as a whole and just reset for a moment once again. So it's 2:05. What do we have? We have Harvey. Harvey, as my boss would say, mayhem. We have Harvey mayhem. And by that we mean a lot of not knowing, a little bit of knowing, and luckily a lot of to do where we haven't had damage, a couple instances where we have. The rain bands that we are concentrating on at this point, the next batch here, not as impressive, but the next one we're watching from Chickasaw County back toward around Calhoun City and Oxford there. We'll watch that. That's kind of on the edge of the dry air. Dry air does weird stuff to tropical systems. Number one, what it does, it chokes off the heaviest rainfall, but it gets us to separation. Sometimes if you get the separation in the right spot, you can try to produce tornadoes. And so it is with the shear that it has and everything kind of come into place that we have to watch that as a possibility on some of these. Let's go back here to sections of Chickasaw County, and then we'll get... Okay, so we'll get Joel's audio back on here in a minute, Joel, so give me just a moment here to touch on Chickasaw County, and then we'll talk more to you about that. So we are looking at near the Parkersburg area. This is rotation, but let's check the wind mode on Storm Track Doppler radar. Now, there's a little more than it was earlier, 35 miles per hour. We're not quite what it was when it imminently spun something up near the Tupelo area, but we're getting more organized. So tracking that toward Troy and Pontotoc proper. No guarantees this does anything. It could, 2 scans from now, get wiped off the map. By that I mean the return could, not the location. The storm could fall apart. Let's try that again. So Van Vliet, 6 minutes. Troy, 27 minutes. Zion Community, 42 minutes. And Pontotoc proper, we're looking at 51 minutes there. I'm going to go back to the precip mode here. There's one storm just west of Prairie, between Prairie and Una, that I'm looking at here, and it looks like nothing on here, right? And I know Una's going to catch the attention of some of our folks here, but that does have a little rotation there as well. So I'm going to track this just to give you an advance heads up. We're not going to spend a lot of time on this simply because it's not producing at this point and it's too weak to produce, but there's no guarantees that at some point in the future it doesn't. So let's just have this in your mind. Okolona, we're within the next 30, 35 minutes or so in the Pine Grove area. This would be Pine Grove, not the Pine Grove that's up farther north, but this one in southern Lee County, showing up there closer to 50 minutes or so. Okay, well, we don't have Joel's shot, but we do have Joel's audio. And Joel, I want to talk to you for a moment here. Where are you at for one? Are you there, Joel? We do have Joel's shot. Okay. So let's go ahead and see Joel's shot as he's continuing to track this, and let me see if his audio is still here. Call failed. Let's call back. So let's go northward. Joel is on the storm that is near Highway 45 in Alcorn County. Obviously, you could see these are tropical, and you know anytime you go to the beach during summertime and you just get that rain, you can't hardly see through. That's definitely what Joel has here. Joel would like to FaceTime. Oh, no, here. Okay, Joel's on there. Okay. You're back with us, Joel. So, where are you at, first off?
I am on 45. I'm coming into Boonville. We've got these 2 areas of rotation. One that appears to be just to the west of Ryan City, and another one back into the Dumas area. So, I guess we're going to try to get up to Ryan and look back to the northwest.
So,
is that correct?
Yes, and we had there was at least the remnant of a tornado debris signature on the south side of Boonville when this came in. While we haven't had reports of damage in Boonville, I just wanted to make sure that you weren't looking at obvious damage as you came up through there. So just to double check.
I didn't see.
Okay.
No, didn't see any.
Okay, I just wanted to double check with you there on that. Let us know as this continues to unfold. And check back in with us. That's our meteorologist Joel Young along 45 in Boonville, heading northward, watching for damage, seeing what we can see. Appreciate that. Okay, if you have retweeted it, I can pull it up here. Was it recent that you retweeted it? Which one is it? This? Mm-hmm. Okay, damage picture coming in. Let's look at this. Let's see what we. It should be video. Mm-hmm. I might be able to get this. So this is 370 in Itawamba County. Mallory Close, apologize with this. So this is 370 in Itawamba County. This would have been the first touchdown on that. And this would have been when we were looking at the stuff in Tupelo, and that eastern of the two storms there looks like it ramped up more, obviously causing some damage there. Folks trying to go through the recovery efforts. Appreciate that photograph there. Don't want to see that. A lot of safe place selfies. Some trees down. This picture here from Houston Palestine Road in Itawamba County. Tammy Miner sitting in this shot there. Trees blocking the roadway. And so damage. Was that wind damage? Was that tornado damage? It's in about the right location that it could have ended up being tornado damage, so that's something that remains to be seen. Lots of these low-hanging shots of what was coming through the Tupelo area there. This was outside Academy. This is what we were watching. That is either rotating wall cloud. It'd be hard to say that this is a funnel cloud, but near the middle of that is where we saw that uplift and possible tornado touchdown with this thunderstorm as it moved through the area. So your reports continue to come in. Good safe place selfies. Appreciate Danielle, Denise there for sending in this picture. And of course, all your reports, you could send those in, Twitter, Facebook, email, and we appreciate the interaction with us. Luckily, though, this storm up here that Joel's on is weakening somewhat. It's also getting far enough away from the radar that it's going to be harder and harder to tell exactly what it's doing. This keeps coming up with the 2:15 warning, but the one I'm more concentrating on is the one until 2:45 for Alcorn County, moving in the direction of Kossuth where this is. It's still rotation. This is the storm that produced those 2 reports of damage we just showed you pictures of a second ago. So while it might be weaker, you want to take the chance. Let's just be careful in Kossuth. We have 12 minutes. The gift community there, we have 24 minutes for you. Corinth proper, you're probably in good shape from this one. The western of these 2 tornado warnings, north of the Dumas area there, moving in the direction of County Road 200. Eventually, it's still just about 4 or 5 miles east there of Ripley, and would be into Walnut within the next 40 minutes or so. So watching this closely. By the way, we touched on this a minute ago here. National Weather Service now looking harder at that Chickasaw County storm that we were looking at a moment ago there in eastern Chickasaw County as the rotation continues to increase on that. Let's revisit this because this is in a more prime for development zone. There are 2 areas here where there's rotation, one near Van Vliet and another one that's along the Chickasaw-Monroe County line. Go to the wind mode on Storm Track Doppler radar. And by the way, I believe there's our tornado warning for the northeast of those. That coming out just moments ago. You saw it live there on Storm Track Doppler radar. Weather calls going out for this near the Van Vliet community. Moving northward, this could be a tornado. Certainly the rotation is increasing. National Weather Service feeling strongly enough about it that they have gone ahead and pulled on the tornado warning here in effect until 3 p.m. Certainly we need to be in that tornado safe place in Van Vliet, as we talked about with that track a moment ago. Checking the wind mode on Storm Track Doppler radar, pretty much just north of Van Vliet along the Natchez Trace Parkway is where I would put that rotation at this moment, heading toward County Road 413 in extreme northern Chickasaw County. Short-term track, obviously we have to be in that tornado safe place in Van Vliet. That tornado safe place is on the lowest floor of a sturdy structure in the middle. Turn up the volume on your TV, wrap up in blankets and pillows, and stay there until we can give you the all clear. A reminder, of course, what we're looking at here. This is a situation where it's radar indicated rotation that could develop into a tornado very soon. While not as impressive as the storms that eventually produced that damage earlier, it doesn't have to be impressive on radar to necessarily produce damage. And so at this point, we have not spotted or confirmed debris on a tornado, but we have rotation that could develop into one possibly very soon. So that's why we're being careful with this, as we are with all of them. Checking the debris mode on Storm Track Doppler radar just to make sure we don't have that debris. And you see lots of black stuff, lots of things, these relating to some radar artifacts there. Nothing on that makes me think that we have tornado debris at this instant, but certainly a situation we're going to watch very closely. Check the wind mode one more time just to make sure. Okay, so I'm looking at right there, about halfway between Van Vliet and County Road 413 on the Natchez Trace Parkway. Let's check that debris mode one more time just to make sure. Nope, in that exact spot there. I know there's something close. That's not it. It would be right there if it were occurring, and it is not occurring at this moment. No tornado debris on this. Good in that regard, so hopefully we can keep it that way. Let's track this northward. Let's get a more extensive track on this that will include Pontotoc proper, that location in the path of this storm. If it holds together, and these have today held together, we're talking about 18 minutes into the Troy community, Zion, about 32 minutes, Pontotoc proper, in 42 minutes, 52 minutes into Enville, and 60 minutes into Ecru. This is rotation that at some point could develop into a tornado, so we'll watch it closely. Update to our storm in Alcorn County. Tornado warning that has now been canceled because that is the thunderstorm that our meteorologist Joel Young is on. And so let's bring Joel back over here for a moment. Let's talk to him about what to do next. Joel's had a very long day. Joel, what time did you get up this morning?
I woke up at 1:30 this morning.
1:30 this morning, and you're still going at 2:16 on TV. So where are you at?
All right, we just crossed over into Alcorn County, so we're 5 miles from Biggersville. We're going to be looking back toward the northwest. And now I looked at my radar, and I want you to look at yours. What kind of rotation are you seeing? Is it weekend?
Yes. Yes. No. The reason you're struggling to find it is it has weakened, and just within the last minute and a half, National Weather Service canceled that warning.
Okay. So let me ask you this. Should we head back south and try to get on this storm coming out of Pontotoc County?
I would say yes. How are you on gas and TVU battery?
How are we on gas, Rebecca? By the way, Rebecca, shout out.
Yeah, that's our Rebecca Butcher who's driving. We only do this in twos. You got to be safe. You can see flashers from the other driver there. Last thing we want is Joel talking and driving and operating a camera. That's why we have Rebecca driving and Joel guiding him on where to go. So they're going to turn around. Let's turn you around. Let's head you back south, bring you back this direction, and then head back toward Boonville, and then let's talk. God, I don't know if we bring you all the way back to maybe 370 and cycle you back to New Albany again. I mean, we'll have to talk about that. Let's get you toward closer to Baldwin, and then let's discuss it from there.
All right, I'll call you when I get to Baldwin.
Okay, appreciate it. Thank you. It's our meteorologist Joel Young out there. Continue to monitor this situation, hopefully with battery charger in tow, because we've talked to him a lot today. Mike, your phone. So tornado warning continues. Let's touch on Tippah County. It's been the one it's been the longest since we've touched on for a moment here, heading toward Walnut, Faulkner, Tiplerville. Let's check on the latest scan here, make sure it is still the latest. It is. The rotation here now northeast of Ripley near County Road 500, south of County Road 564. Checking the debris mode on Storm Track Doppler radar, nothing there, so this is not a tornado ongoing. It is just rotation that at some point could possibly produce a tornado. It's been persistent rotation. This is the storm that moved through Tupelo earlier on, and so it has held together and hopefully hasn't produced damage. We haven't had any reports on it so far. It is weaker than it was earlier, but still strong enough that at some point, I mean, with this scan, we're now looking at least 3/4 of a mile, if not a mile, up into the atmosphere. And tornado, obviously, when you watched our coverage when it moved through Tupelo, you saw that it was rotating up here, but not down there. So if we're not sampling the surface, I can never say for sure that it's not producing a tornado. So this is maybe not, and I apologize that my Facebook phone there fell down. There we go. Hopefully that's a little better for you. So is this producing a tornado? No guarantees it's not. And so let's track this northward. Let's include Faulkner in that track, though it's heading more toward Walnut at this point. Faulkner, we'd be talking 10 minutes for you. Tiplerville, 17 minutes. Walnut in about 26 minutes. This is rotation that at some point could possibly produce a tornado. And let me make sure, hold on with that. I think that was an update to an older scan. There we are. There's a newer scan closer to the Faulkner area. That rotation broadening, so fingers crossed you do that 2 or 3 more scans and they might end up canceling that warning. But I would still be in that safe place just to be safe, obviously. That's why we call it a safe place. Coming back here toward Chickasaw County, a couple areas of rotation. Obviously the one that has prompted the tornado warning north of Van Vliet, about to cross into southern Pontotoc County within the next few minutes here. And this moving toward Troy. Let's get a new storm track on it now, just north of County Road 413. I'm going to try to see if it's right at the top of my screen. We'll see if it'll clip Pontotoc there. It will. So obviously the Goodford area, we're talking 11 minutes. The Chippewa area there's Chihuahua, apologize, in 22 minutes, and Pontotoc in 35 minutes. Potential that this rotation at some point could develop into a tornado. And that's why we're doing this continuous coverage. Check the debris mode here on Storm Track Doppler radar. And most of us, well, there does not look like there's debris there that is concerning at this point. The reason I said most of us is I'm already thinking ahead to the next thing I want to touch on, and that is the fact that most of us still find ourselves as of 2:20 p.m. under a tornado watch box. This tornado watch was issued late this morning for the potential. Maybe one or two of these shows signs of rotation and produces a tornado. To this point, these storms have looked pretty darn healthy. So 8 p.m., the time frame that this watch is in effect until, I mean, we anticipate at some point you'll start canceling out some of these counties back there. I don't think we're at that point yet, but we could at some point get there. But the tornado watch box in effect for those locations. John, let me see if computer 3 there, what I'm going to try to do here for a second, I'm going to try to see if I can get, hold on, see if I can get some social media pictures and stuff like that to come up here. I just want to double check. John, have we had any new reports of damage, anything along those lines?
From the Houston-Palestine Road earlier, and also Highway 370, Itawamba County. Also, trees down and power lines were down on the Meadow Creek Road in Boonville. Those were the ones that have been reported so far from the social media that I've been catching. Okay. Okay, well, I mean, so it's that one storm that has continued to do it. Of course, here's one thing I want to remind you of. We don't need, thank you, John. Right. We don't need looky-loos. Local folks don't. You know, we've listed some county roads. That's very specific information. What we don't need are some folks out there that are trying to make sure that you're part of the first responders going to this, as opposed to, I want to go and help. There's time for that when the time comes there. I have not seen that video there. Have we retweeted it? Alan Matthew did just a second ago. Did he mention us in it?
He did, yes.
Okay, give me a moment. I can.
It is video from a viewer from Justin Michael of the Houston-Palestine tornado, looking east from Houston-Palestine Road in Kirkville.
Okay, give me a moment here to get this. Did he retweet that? When was that?
Just a couple minutes ago.
Okay, let me see if I can.
It's on WTVA Weather and WTVA-9.
Okay, here we are. Give me a moment here. I'm going to pull this up on a different computer, so give me a second to get this up, and it's going to take me a minute to get that to where you can see it better. So this is a shot of, I apologize, it's going to get kind of grody for a second here while I try to get this to what we're wanting to look at there. Okay, so there you can see on your TV screen. And let's go ahead and mute that audio if we could, just to be safe, because I know that if I were looking at a tornado and I weren't in TV, yep. So this is basically what we looked at out of that Tupelo tower cam earlier on. This is rotation here, and I'll have you give me the specifics on this here in just a second, but I'm going to zoom this way in so that we get a shot here so folks at home can see exactly what we're talking about here. So let's restart that again. So this came in from where, Craig? So oh, no, I have it right here. I'm sorry. This was from Justin. East of the Houston-Palestine Road in Kirkville, and this was the tornado that caused damage out that direction. So you're going to see a shot of it here in a moment. I apologize. Shocker, network issues kind of popping up here again. So let's go ahead and reboot that to see if we can bring that back up again. So give me just a moment here to get that popped up. But that's obviously a shot of the tornado we were looking at a minute ago there. This was the one tornado touchdown that we've been able to confirm. Just a second, full screen.
Matt, I didn't know if it helped. Would it be if you want to do Apple TV or?
Well, no, it would have a minute ago, but now we're good. So this is it. This came in from the Houston-Palestine Road. That a tornado. If you look closely there, I can't tell if that's just digitizing. There are definitely some debris, absolutely debris there that was lofted up because of this. So this is the tornado we had. There are some pieces of something lofted in the air because of this. So this was a tornado that we had on the eastern of those two storms. This was about the same time we had something looking pretty close to that moved through the Tupelo area. I appreciate, I believe, Justin Michael, the one that sent us that video there. I'm sure we'll revisit it here in a minute. We might try to download that and crop it and cut it so we can show that back. So that's the storm that Joel was on that is now west of Corinth, between Corinth and Walnut, and going through a diminishing phase there, and it prompted the cancellation of that tornado warning. Closer inspection here on the storm approaching the Walnut area. This is near Faulkner. Still rotation on this. This is the one that moved through Tupelo earlier. And Walnut, we're talking about 18 minutes for you. Tiplerville, we're within the next 9 minutes. The Brownfield community on the extreme northern tip there along the Tennessee state line, we're talking about 25 minutes for you. Rotation that could potentially be a tornado at this time. Other storms, let's revisit this. Let's double check, make sure there's not something else. We'll come back to this stuff from Manatee to western Clay County in a moment after we've done some immediate storm tracks on a storm that still has prompted a tornado warning here. This near the Troy community, near Highway 41 there. So you can see Pontotoc on the top of your screen there. Tornado warning in effect until 3 p.m. on this thunderstorm. We're going to keep that speed about 25 miles per hour, track it toward the north and west. Time frame into Pontotoc, we're looking at about 30 minutes, assuming it hasn't picked up a little bit of speed, maybe just a little bit, in fact, a little bit less than that. Let's get a more accurate time here. We watch this one more time. I'm gonna track it just a little faster there. I want a slightly more accurate time, and maybe we can clip Ecru with this. It doesn't get quite to there. About 40 minutes into Ecru, though. In Pontotoc proper, we're talking 26 minutes. Nixon, 30 minutes, 12 minutes in the Chippewa or Chihuahua. I'll get emails on that one. I apologize I didn't get it today. But certainly, this is a situation in these cases where we need to take our tornado safety rules seriously, because we have rotation that could develop into a tornado. And at this one, we have not had a tornado that's been spotted, though obviously we've had that earlier, as you saw with that video a moment ago, and radar cannot confirm debris on this at this moment, but it's a situation we want to take seriously nonetheless. Sturdy structures where we want to be, the lowest floor, the middle, turn up the volume on the TV, wrap up in blankets and pillows, and stay put, stay there until we can give you the all clear. New tornado warning coming out just moments ago for sections of Tishomingo County. That means that's a storm we haven't touched on at all. So let's get to it. Tishomingo County, this would be near Iuka that we're looking at. This has just crossed the Alabama state line into Mississippi, so Mississippi state line, I suppose a better way to put it. Just north of US 72, Iuka, we need to be in that tornado safe place. We just showed you what that was. Let's reiterate that briefly, and then let's take a look at it and do all the stuff we analyze and do. You know, folks up around Pickwick Lake, we need to be there as well. So sturdy structure, lowest floor, let's get there now, especially the east side of Iuka, and then we'll figure out, you know, what is this capable of in a moment. Let's get to that shelter on the lowest floor in the middle, turn up the volume on the TV, wrap up in blankets and pillows, and stay there until we can give you the all clear. We're talking about Tishomingo County here. This is a county that hasn't had any warnings today. You're under a tornado warning because of Doppler radar indicated rotation. Radar indicated the words that the National Weather Service is using to describe this. Let's get to the wind mode on Storm Track Doppler radar. We're a long ways away from the radar site, so this is better than conjecture, but not a whole lot better because of how high up we're looking. 27 miles per hour, the pixel-to-pixel wind change. I can look from Birmingham, it's going to be a heck of a long ways away. I can look from Memphis, it's going to be a really long ways away. In all cases, there's enough rotation to pay close attention. And that's the reason why this warning has been issued. Certainly, we don't want you out there playing Storm Spotter. We want you in your tornado safe place. This tornado warning, as we mentioned a moment ago, in effect until 3 p.m. That isn't a whole lot longer. It's a half hour because this is fast moving. Let's track this. Let's get a track that does include some of those folks, because I know there's a lot of folks that maybe live part of the year out here at some of the lakes. And let's catch Pickwick Lake on this to make sure we're in good shape. This shows the Caney Hollow area in about 37 minutes, 31 minutes into High Point there. And Iuka, if you have an Iuka address, you live east of town there, this is you now. And so in Iuka proper, we need to be in a tornado safe place just to be safe. This is a situation that could strengthen and could be substantially more intense than what it looks like on Storm Track Doppler radar. It's just too far away from the radar site to have a really good look at it. So let's analyze some of these other thunderstorms that are kind of in the new development area of these bands. Like this batch here we have from Houston southward toward around the Starkville area. We haven't said Starkville in a while. So let's look closer at these. Let's see what the wind mode on Storm Track Doppler radar is doing. Let's see how closely we have to pay attention. At this point, these aren't overly impressive. Glad to see that. The last couple times we've tried to look at these, they've been pretty rough looking. This one, not there yet, so it's going to take substantial strengthening if one of these is going to get to a tornado producing level. But this is the next batch we have to watch here. We're going to do a general track. I want to check my angle on this right. These have more of a northeasterly direction. That shift in direction between north and northeast there is because of the moisture being sucked back into Harvey. Wouldn't it be great if Harvey this entire time had moved like 20 miles an hour? You wouldn't have had the flooding in Houston and we'd be done with our coverage already. But unfortunately, because of its slow moving, we're kind of in this prime zone where we have to continue to watch this. So I'm going to track that whole line. And I'm going to keep that speed of about 25 miles per hour. That might be overdoing it just a little bit here. I'm going to track that whole line just so that we give kind of an advance heads up this direction here. And there's another storm I'm going to touch on south of Tupelo in a minute. But Houston, this next batch that may or may not do something about 2:37, Van Vliet about 3 o'clock, Okolona at about 3:28, Tupelo at about 3:44, and ICC Tupelo on the east side town there about 3:49. I want to look at this storm that's just south of Tupelo, and then we're going to go back to all of our tornado warnings. This one near the Leotis area there, that's the one we were tracking closer when it was south of Okolona. Let me check the rotation on that. Still definitely there. So let's get a storm track on this one. It might be the next one that prompts a tornado warning. We're going to track this northward. You're going to see some locations that have been on your map before. They're back in it now. Within the next 30 minutes for Verona, new radar scan. Let's get better numbers. Okay, so we're talking within the next 30 minutes for Verona, Tupelo. That'd be the middle part of town, 40 minutes. So you know Tupelo, Verona, you blur the lines there on the south side. It's within that 30 to 40 minute range. WTVA studios, if it holds together, and this one's going to come pretty close, within the next 50 minutes, within the next hour in Saltillo, within the next hour and a half in the Baldwin, assuming it holds together that long, which is a bit of an assumption at this point, but considering what we've had, not an impossibility. The storm that is in Pontotoc County, getting closer and closer to Pontotoc proper, just south of the, very near, I believe that's Highway 41 there. Let me make sure I'm right on my spot. That is Highway 41. Okay, that's where our rotation is, south of Highway 342. And moving in a northerly direction. The rotation on this down somewhat from what it was. Let me check the precip mode, see if it's still not as impressive as it was. Well, the rain that, by the way, it's coming through Pontotoc is part of this same storm, but it's this little V that you see there, right in there. That's where our rotation, that's where our possible tornado would be on this. Still radar indicated at this point, but that doesn't mean it won't produce. It has the Chippewa community in 3 minutes and the Nixon community within 20 minutes. If it were to pull something crazy and go northwest, which it's probably not going to do, just for timing, it would be about 17 minutes into the center part of Pontotoc, but certainly the eastern part of that city more likely to see the impacts of this storm. And as far as some all clears are concerned, for this thunderstorm, for this group of thunderstorms, if you live in Chickasaw County, you can come out of that tornado safe place. Troy community, certainly if you live south of the intersection that qualifies as the middle of Troy, I know that's a relative term, you can come out of that tornado safe place. North of Troy, give me about 5 more minutes and we'll be in pretty good shape here. We're still trying to get more information on that video of the tornado. Hopefully we'll have that for you here in a couple of moments. I want to go back into Calhoun County. We're watching kind of the backside of some of these showers because they have cleaner inflow. There's no shortage of moisture. If you stepped outside today, it's what a former meteorologist here used to call insta-sweat. So it is sticky out there. The fuel is plentiful, and a lot of times when we have storms or severe weather or tornadoes, what have you, there's just enough moisture and it's just the wrong recipe at just the wrong time, and boom, you use it all up and you're done. But because this is tropical moisture, it's not unlimited fuel, but it's pretty close to that. And what that means is that you end up having multiple chances over the same spots, which is what we have had today. We'll touch on the heavy rainfall portion of this here in a moment as well, just to make sure we're not missing something in that regard. Near Sarepta, a little rotation there. This is not overly impressive, but something we're watching. I mean, they're all going to have some rotation, so I don't want to belabor that point. Let's go wide. Let's double check a wide look here, and then we're going to kind of reset our situation as it stands at this moment here. So wider shot of this Harvey, the center of which is out pretty close to Greenville, lifting toward the north and east. It is a tropical depression. It's going to be breezy even outside of these thunderstorms. That's something you'll definitely note. Heavy rainfall, a big factor as well with this. As far as rainfall totals are concerned to this point, the amounts are heaviest concentrated back out into sections of Arkansas, estimated 6+ inches. Northwest part of the state, there are a few spots 2 to 3 inches. And we do have at least a couple locations where we're talking about potentially more than 1 inch to 2 inches of rainfall so far. So on top of some of the flooding rain, excuse me, on top of some of the tornado potential that we've had today, some of these spots I keep seeing the chances after chances here. 1 to 2 inches of rainfall already occurring some of those spots. We usually drain well enough around here that's not an issue, but if you know one of those back roads that sometimes that is the case, let's be careful of that. John, New Storm Prediction Center put out a mezzo a second ago. If you would check that and then give me an update on kind of what it's thinking, I'd really appreciate it. Okay, so let's reset for a moment here. Tornado watch box continues in effect because of Harvey. This is all the remnants of Harvey, Tropical Storm Harvey, still at this point. So not truly the full-on remnants, but not what it was when it was a full-on hurricane, but enough moisture, enough shear, enough spin in the low levels that it causes these brief spin-up tornadoes. And as you saw earlier, and we'll try to recue the video in a little bit, definitely can produce tornado damage. So we're looking, as you can see, with a tornado warning that is in Pontotoc County, 1 in Tippah County, 1 in northern Tishomingo County, the blue counties, the rest of us under a tornado watch, that in effect until 8 p.m. The warnings, as we mentioned, all 3 for tornadoes at this time. It's about the only severe weather potential you'll see. For Tippah County, we have 1,200 folks under that one in effect until 2:45, so only a few more minutes. For Pontotoc County until 3 p.m., though that one has weakened somewhat, we will revisit in it in a moment. And the storm we've touched on the least in the last 10 minutes near Iuka, and really it's north of Iuka at this point, involving 2,900 people in Tishomingo County, a tornado warning in effect until 3 p.m. Storm track Doppler radar showing the trends on this that do still, it's a long ways away from the radar site. And so can I fully trust the radar? Sort of on location, probably not on intensity. So, and John, if you, yeah, go ahead. Okay, we'll talk about that in just a second here. So the track of this, let's take it northward, still toward Pickwick Lake. I wish Pickwick Lake itself would show up on here, but High Point close enough. Within the next 15 minutes or so for you is when the rotation comes overhead. Is it a tornado? It's maybe. We're just looking so high up. That's the reason the Weather Service is going with this, is it sits in that maybe category. Our meteorologist, John DeLucia, kind of helping us behind the scenes here, and John was getting up. Someone called him off camera just a second ago. So let's talk about this update real quick,
Okay,
John.
just quickly, an update to the Storm Prediction Center talking about storms. We're in a mode now that we could be going at least through 5 o'clock. Northeast Mississippi and northwestern sections of Alabama, all due to the moisture, rich moisture moving into the area, and the air is just prime for tornadoes for at least the next 2, 3, maybe even 4 hours.
Okay, so here's the question: they're just reaffirming, hey, listen, this is not over.
That's
this is
exactly
continuing.
it. That's exactly it. Telling everybody this is just a situation that, at least they say through 5 o'clock this evening, we still have the potential, and that could be even extended even further.
I agree. It just hasn't moved a whole lot, and that makes this tricky. I want to go to southern Lee County. Thank you, John. There, a storm that is not tornado warned, a storm that has signs of rotation. Just right there is where the rotation would be. I'm going to spin our tower cam around a little bit, so stick with me a moment as we kind of maneuver things behind the scenes here and get a better shot of what's going on. We'll widen this out. We'll go back south. We'll wish for a windshield wiper. We won't get that. and we'll be looking at heavy rainfall. So unfortunately, we again won't have a great vantage point of this until after it's right up on us. But this is the next one we'll have to watch. So we'll see, and hopefully we'll end up in good shape on this. But this one, and I'm going to get a storm track on it, does show some signs of rotation. Enough so that I feel like we need to plan ahead just in case, have it in the back of your mind. Here at the TV station, we're talking about 38 minutes before it gets here. Behind the scenes, Maddie, we need to have a conversation. You need to set a timer and remind me within 20 that we need to, even if they haven't issued a tornado warning, revisit what we want to do with the folks here behind the scenes. Middle Tupelo, we're talking about 28 minutes from now, Saltillo, and about 47 minutes, Guntown at right about an hour. Our discussion with the National Weather Service, you can see it pointing just to the storm that's west of that and saying, hey, this got tornado warning on it. Latest discussion with the National Weather Service kind of indicating what we were mentioning a minute ago here, this in a weakening stage. Radar doesn't always tell the perfect story on this, so I don't want to downplay it too much at this point, but certainly this is not as intense as it was even just a few minutes ago. The rotation here, under impressive, just south of 278 near, that'd be New Hope Road in Pontotoc County. I know there's quite a few New Hope roads out there, so this is the one in Pontotoc County, just south of 278. And so if you live in Pontotoc proper, you are obviously in this tornado warning. I want to keep you in that tornado safe place a few more minutes here. I say that, and just in the last couple of moments, the National Weather Service has gone ahead and dropped that tornado warning. Good. Well, I'm looking at the same stuff we're looking at. Glad to see we're all seeing the same thing. Near Pontocola Road, also this a non-tornado warm storm, but it's still in that environment where it is showing signs of rotation, probably more so than the one we were looking at just a moment ago. And near the Ellis Lane area, pixel to pixel wind change, that 27 and 43 there south of Palmetto. Two areas that we are watching very closely as they continue to try to get more organized here. The newsroom continues to look at information as we have had some reports of damage around the area today. We do still have active tornado warnings, but including that one up in Tishomingo County, but fortunately radar indicated still the discussion. We'll get to that in just a second. We want to check where we're at on damage. That'll help us understand which of these storms we need to pay the closest attention to. Our Craig Ford.
Real quick, WTVA Shante Sumter is along Highway 370 in the Houston-Palestine Road area. That is in northwest Itawamba County. She is efforting some pictures, some images from that area, but there is damage that she has confirmed from that apparent tornado, the video that you saw earlier. Again, Houston-Palestine Road area. We hope to have her join us at least by phone. Hopefully in the next 10 to 15 minutes. And she's trying to send us some pictures. She's got about 12 images or so, but right now we're just having, obviously, cell service. It's a rural area to begin with, and with everything that's transpired, cellular service, trying to get text messages, emails out of that area is quite difficult, but at least we are there. We do have a visual confirmation of damage, and Matt, hopefully we'll get you on the phone with Shante as quickly as possible.
Okay, Craig, I appreciate that report there. We never want to hear reports of damage. I always say that we do this coverage, and I hope at the end of the day it was all for naught and nothing happened, and unfortunately we've gotten at least some of those reports coming in. Hopefully we have seen the end of that, but certainly the tornado warnings continue. We have gotten a few pictures in, and we'll try to get those on the scene. But we might double check I think the weather Facebook page, Zach, and might retweet one of those out, because I think that there's at least a picture coming in from Iuka at this point. Might just be low-hanging cloud stuff. Came across my watch on that just a moment ago, so we'll have to see. That storm producing a tornado warning. At this point, no guarantees. It is a tornado near the Crossroads community, north of Burnsville, north of Iuka, near Highway 25 north. Of course, if we pop the radar off the screen here, the impact, a lot of folks know, of course, you have Pickwick Lake there. That's where this is moving over top of pretty much as we speak. And so that does weird things on the lake. And of course, people are more vulnerable if they're on the lake. Hopefully no one's on there on a random, is today Wednesday or Thursday? Today's Thursday, right? So hopefully there aren't a lot of folks, well, Memorial Day weekend, sometimes people make it a 4 or a 5-er. And so you might make sure everyone up there knows, because as we talked about a minute ago, cell service definitely spotty some spots, but we're watching there. Track on this, obviously over top of Pickwick Lake now near the Caney Hollow area. Time frame there in about 15 minutes to the High Point area in about 8 minutes, and that does start to move out of our area thereafter. The Tippah County tornado warning is going to be allowed to expire at 2:45, so that's 1 minute from now, as the rotation has broadened and weakened, looking not just from the Monroe County radar site, but also from the Memphis radar site. This is a little less impressive than it was earlier, and that's a good sign, and hopefully a trend that we can continue to see unfold. So good sign in that regard. Hopefully we can get it there. I'm going to bring in our meteorologist, John DeLusick, for a moment here while I try to cue a couple things up. And John, again, checking for damage on any of these. You talked about the Storm Prediction Center talking about
yes.
What is possible still out there out of these. And you've been around here a long time. You've been through a lot. You've been through Katrina. How does this compare? Do you feel like we're at the midpoint of this? Are we past the midpoint?
You just try to look for where, rule of thumb is the northeast quadrant of that circulation, which is still going through our western portion of Mississippi. Again, as many say, the northeast quadrant is the most severe area. We are still in that northeast quadrant right now, and until we get out of even beyond that northeast quadrant, let's say maybe a little bit south of that, I think we're still going to be under the gun. It's still going to be the next several hours before that whole circulation at least tries to move into portions of Tennessee. So until then, until we lose the heating of the day, either or both, we're going to be still, I think, be looking at stuff like this for a little while.
Okay, thank you, John. I appreciate that analysis. That helps us out a lot, because it's always good to get that long-term analysis. We're fortunate that we have you and have that perspective there. And reminded that we're fortunate to have all of you at home that send us pictures. This picture coming in, I believe, and this coming in from Chris in Iuka. As you can see there, that is some pretty good structure for one of these storms. We call striations showing up here on a couple different levels. This is that storm near Iuka there, and we've had quite a few pictures of that coming in. Here's another shot, this from Chris Gardner there. So still a good enough structure, even though we talked about this a minute ago. Doesn't look great on radar, but certainly in person there, that would be where our lowering would be. This shot here again, looking north of Iuka, that's looking into our thunderstorm. That coming from Chris within the last minute here when that picture came in. And another one from Jameson there. That's strong rotation on that storm, so we got to be very careful with it. And let's bring up our
30-minute timer. What is that for again?
That was for me revisiting, and let's make it 20 minutes at this point, the storm south of Tupelo, making sure that we're sure that they're not going to produce something. I don't want to forget about them. Don't want to forget about anybody, but obviously we're watching our folks to make sure we're good as well. Billy Lee sitting in this shot here. This is a time lapse of that storm that produced the tornado there. I believe this was near that Houston-Palestine road again. He took this time lapse, and definitely a lot of rotation on this shot here. This was that storm earlier, and right there toward the horizon would be behind that tree line there that we'd be able to see it there. You could see that undercut, how like the dry air gets in there and undercut. It's such a delicate dance, and you don't think delicate when you hear about a tornado, but these are delicate. Some people call that the beaver tail. That's inflow of moisture into there, and so that would be the zone in there where we'd be watching. It's difficult storm spotting around here. I've never done it because I've always been in here, but it is those that do it, props to you, but be safe and always be steps away from shelter. Storm chasing, not something that we ever end up recommending. And when you say Houston in my ear, which Houston is it? Are we talking about Houston, Palestine? Okay, let's look at that Houston, Palestine video. I believe that is this the Justin Michael video that we had from earlier on? Yes, this is. Okay, so this is that video we were trying to show you earlier on. We've got it nice and cleaned up here. This is what that storm, another shot of the one we were showing you just a moment ago, what it produced. And this was the tornado that we've had so far. And the reason why we continue live, continuous coverage hours after it began, began close to 10 a.m. this morning. And, you know, we're still going at almost 3 p.m. It's because of this. You're looking at debris lofted up. If you look closely there, those black specks, that's pieces of stuff, whether that's pieces of house, whether that's pieces, I mean, in many cases, it looks like parts of structure there because of how wide and squarish some of that was on the right-hand part of the video there. But that's a violent tornado. So we appreciate that coming in earlier. The reason why we're doing this coverage is because there's not a ton of lead time. That one looked like it could be doing it. We did have some data issues at the time. But that one definitely was one of the strongest we've seen today, and obviously from there, the strongest can do that. And that would be a violent tornado during spring, much less during a tropical scenario like this. So tracking northward, the tornado warning that we still have in place for Tishomingo County, High Point area, 6 minutes, Caney Hollow, 13 minutes counts in 20 minutes there, and you start going farther and farther out of the area, the Dixon community in 31 minutes and 43 minutes into Walkertown. The rotation track on this has been still pretty substantial, and this is one of the tools that allows us to just do an eyeball test about, okay, well, where could the worst of this go? And so you can see the two tracks that we had, the one with the storm that moved through Tupelo earlier on, the one that produced that damage. This one, you can see how it gets into those pinks there in Itawamba County and extreme southern Prentiss County. That was the one that produced that tornado that you saw just a moment ago. And so that one, you see how the track falls apart there? That tells us that's one very easy way on a wider scale that we can look at this and say, okay, that's one we need to watch, that's one we're okay with. And that's the reason why, even though we don't have tornado warnings currently in effect, where are we seeing some of these rotation tracks, as we call them? And you notice there's this batch here, the one that has moved close to Pontotoc, but Weekend previously had the tornado warning, and the reason we've been conversing behind the scenes about that timer that we're double checking here. No tornado warning issued on this one south and just pretty much on the south side of Tupelo, but there are a couple areas where you have those rotation tracks, not a real term, but just a way for us to kind of aggregate, compile how much rotation there has been. One area near Shannon and one near the Bissell area where they have at least had some kind of rotation for a while. Looking at the wind mode on Storm Track Doppler radar, and the one near Shannon is more impressive. I don't know if we're at tornado warning level, but we're enough that this is the one where we're talking behind the scenes about how do we treat our people here now. We're 33 minutes from the station on that one, and how much time's left on our timer there before we have to make a decision on whether or not we're going to shelter either way. 15 minutes, okay, so about half that time. So we'll be revisiting that. Tupelo proper 22 minutes, Verona in 12 minutes. This one is probably our strongest rotation that we have on a non-tornado warned thunderstorm there. There's another one, as we mentioned, near the Bissell area. Palmetto, we're talking about 1 minute for you. West Main and Coley, assuming it kind of clips that, 10 minutes there. Chesterville, 16 minutes. Sherman, 28 minutes. It's rotating for sure. But will it produce a tornado? That remains to be seen. And so I would, hey, listen, if you're sitting at home and you can, I would just be thinking about, or wherever we're at, I know we got to test this earlier with some of the tornado warnings we had, just thinking about where all these things apply if you're in the same location or if you're in a different location, looking at where a sturdy structure, lowest floor, middle of that structure is, whether or not you can hear us or you can watch us. Of course, the live stream, as we often say, available on the WTVA Weather and WTVA News apps. They're both free. You can watch us on there. We're also on Facebook Live, assuming my phone hasn't died. Nope, looks like we're good. So it won't sit in place now. So you can watch us on there if your signal goes out. The other end of this event that we have to watch and that we're continuing to watch is the potential for flash flooding, which is prompted flash flood watches for a good chunk of the area. And within the last few minutes here, flash flood warnings that have been placed into effect for a few locations. The flash flood watches in this lighter color, the darker color, the flash flood warnings, some of the spots that we were tracking the heavy rainfall amounts earlier on. And so flash flood warnings that now are in effect do include the city of Oxford, locations in eastern Lafayette County. That flash flood warning in effect until, let's get it on the screen here, 5:45 p.m. So hoping that maybe some of these bands move out of there and you're in better shape. And then for Tippah County, where we've had storm after storm, tornado warning after tornado warning, we're talking until 5:30 p.m. And you might say, why are we stopping tornado warning coverage to talk about this? Because 1/2 of all deaths related to flooding are in vehicles. And we're at about that time of day, people start getting in their vehicles. And flash flooding kills more people than tornadoes and hurricanes combined every year. So if you're in one of these flash flood warnings, I want you to take it pretty seriously if you can. And to do that, obviously, we want to find higher ground. Don't drive through floodwater. I know your car it's jacked up, it's awesome. Float away. It takes the same amount of water to float away one of those big jacked up trucks as it does my little commuter car that we have. So take this seriously. Flash flood warnings for both those locations in effect, and something that we're obviously watching. The heaviest rainfall through the Ripley area, luckily, but we're still watching it very, very closely. Tornado warning continues here, 4 locations in extreme northern Tishomingo County, near the High Point area in Pine Flat there. And we have a couple Pine Flats around here. Approaching the Counts area, as you could see, the time frame there, about 5 minutes to Sandy Creek Subdivision, Red Sulphur in 7 minutes, and Counts in 13 minutes. But this is on the far northern fringe of our viewing area at this time. Widen this back out. Let's see what we're missing. Appreciate Emily behind the scenes here helping us to get the
Facebook Live where they can see it a little better, but I can't.
the problem is it needs to balance. Hold on. Let's try setting it like, I think Facebook Live crashed. Hold on. Let's see here, which would actually help us out in this scenario. Yes, let's do it vertical this time.
Okay.
And get it going. Apologize. Hey, at least the old iPhone 5 is still working. Pickens County. We're watching southern Pickens County. Storms that are by themselves always are tricky because they kind of modify their own environment. This one here, rotation increasing. National Weather Service Birmingham will eventually have to make a decision on this. Still moving about 25 miles per hour. The movement on this will eventually take it toward Carrollton, Aliceville. No warning on this yet. Not to say that one doesn't end up being needed at some point. So let's set that right like there. Get our Facebook Live. Move that closer, if you would, please.
Tell me when to stop.
Closer. Is it zoomed in? That'll work. Take it back, actually, a little bit. Back farther. Okay. Hopefully that helps those folks on Facebook. Did you start typing anything, or did you?
No, I just hit go live.
It's not live though yet. Tornado warnings. Okay, that's back going. So this is what we're watching. Apologize that we've hijacked 5 channels with this today. And hopefully we'll be done soon. Nobody wants to be off your television screen more than I do. But these storms, getting more organized here. So start thinking about those tornado preparations out here in Pickens County, just in case you're the next ones that we have to watch. Looking closer to Starkville, we have crews that have been watching these areas over the last few hours. Nothing imminently tornadic out of that, and by that I mean nothing that looks like it's going to develop into a tornado in the next couple of minutes here. Still showing, obviously, a lot of heavy rainfall, some rotation in this batch of storms here that stretches from south of Houston up toward around Holka. More gusty wind than anything else out of this at this point, but it's a situation we're still continuing to monitor. Looking up closer to the Verona area, these storms that we've mentioned a couple of times, not prompting severe tornado warnings at this point, but at this instant, looking at this, continuing to weaken a little bit. But still tracking these northward just in case, just covering our bases. Midtown Tupelo, we're talking about 14 minutes or so. You can see where it pops up on the screen there. So that's actually about Fair Park that it looks like it has that there, maybe a little north of Fair Park. So, and then our studio's in about 25 minutes by the time it would make it here. The one back toward Chesterville looking a little better or a little stronger, a little more impressive on radar there would be in the Sherman within 11 minutes, Blue Springs 18 minutes. Is it producing? At this moment, it is not. Hopefully, we can keep it that way. And from the folks behind the scenes, just want to know what Mike's long-term plan is over the next hour or so. If someone could check on that with me, just so that we're squared away on that. I want to see if we can get a shot of this from our Tupelo tower cam, which will look back toward the south into that. We actually have a little visibility on this for a moment. And there's the latest area of rotation. So this is the zone that we're watching. This is a non-tornado warned thunderstorm. Lots of low-hanging stuff. Even for me, it takes me a minute to see exactly what we're looking at here. I don't see any vigorous vertical motion. Obviously, as you can see the wind blowing, because you can see the raindrops blowing at an angle there, that more to do with Harvey than necessarily storms itself. This is the zone here where we'll start watching that potential.
Matt, FYI, Shante Sumter is going to try to have a live report momentarily. Our videographer Alvin Ivey is there with live capabilities, so hopefully,
Okay.
keep fingers crossed,
Okay, we should have some live information. We have had reports of damage today. That's never what you want to hear. That is unfortunately the situation. And what we want to remind you is even we try to stay back a little bit when we can. And I know the folks in Itawamba and Prentiss counties that have had damage to this point, they would appreciate your help. But tomorrow or the next day or the day after might be a slightly better opportunity for you to do that than necessarily today. Lots of low-hanging clouds looking back toward the west. I'm just going to evaluate that, go back and forth here a little bit. Hey, but